The Bread and Better podcast acknowledges the Yagara people and the Turrbal people as the traditional custodians of Meanjin, the lands on which we record today. We pay our respects to the Yagara and Turrbal elders, past, present, and emerging. This podcast is brought to you by Hey Al Productions.
Did I say good? Did I get you to do it one more time? Maybe just in case. Okay, do it one more time. Go. Bread and Better podcast. Okay. Bread and Better podcast. I feel like I am. Bread and Better podcast.
Welcome back to the Bread and Better podcast. We are a podcast made by women for women and touching on all the issues that affect us. I am Alex. I'm the owner of Hey Al Productions, a boutique podcast production service that produces shows just like the one you're listening to right now. I am also a freelance feature writer and a mum of 3.
And I am Tegan. I am a personal trainer and sports nutritionist. I work with many women on their health, body composition and habits. Although a lot of my clients come to me for a physical transformation, they are shocked to discover that a lot of what we do is mindset. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing one of my favorite topics, personal development. However, Alex will be the first to admit that it isn't her favorite topic. However, I have been winning her over slowly over the course of the podcast. Today, we are diving into personal development for people that think that they aren't into personal development.
I'm actually so excited for this.
Oh, I'm glad.
I am.
Just a disclaimer as well, I have a head cold. So if I sound extra nasally or husky today, that's why. All right. So launching straight into the best thing that we ate in the last week, and I didn't prepare anything as usual. You go first.
So mine, I've been a bit sick, so I've not been too experimental with the things I've been eating. My favorite thing I ate, I just want to say it's just okay. Like it's not great, but
keeping it real.
Keeping it real.
Very real.
So the Donata sugar-free ice cream chocolate pops, the vegan vanilla ones, have you had them before?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, I mean, there are a whole range of like sugar-free kind of healthy ice cream options. So like this is the only vegan one. So I thought maybe you would have tried the more exciting ones. I don't ever opt for sugar-free things. So this was just a really random purchase.
Yeah.
Because it was on sale and they didn't have what I really wanted. Anyway, if you are after a sugar-free dessert option that is vegan, it's nice. It definitely...
It's okay.
It's okay. It's like people might love it. I just don't love anything sugar-free.
Yeah, I avoid sugar-free things because of the alcohol sugars or sugar alcohols. I don't ever remember which way that goes, some people can have them and they feel fine, but for myself, they give me like a stomach ache.
They give me a bit of a headache.
Yeah. Yeah. Like obviously a big fan of sugar-free soft drinks.
Yeah.
But anything that has they all end in toll.
Yes.
The artificial sweeteners.
Yeah.
And often I sit with my clients when they'll say, I've been having bread or pasta or something and it's been giving me a really bad stomach ache. And I'll look at their diary and I'll say, yeah, you sure it's not this protein bar that you've just introduced every day in the last week? And then they take that out and they feel fine.
Yeah.
So not a reco.
So no, if it's something,
okay.
If you're into sugar-free desserts, then go for it.
Give it a go.
Then maybe give it a go. But for me, I'm a full sugar girl. So
she's a full sugar Coke gal.
Full sugar Coke gal. I love everything the way it's supposed to be.
Well, a few things have happened in Brisbane in the last week. The first one, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Queensland. It just got cold.
Oh, so cold.
All of a sudden, which I think is
horrific.
I think that's why I have this head cold. I just woke up on Tuesday and I haven't even been in the ocean this week.
Oh, that's
Monday
so
I did go, but I haven't been because I'm trying to be sensible. But no, I'm okay, guys. Alex is doing a really sad face.
That's a big deal for you.
I know. I'll probably go in tomorrow, providing I feel well enough. But the other thing that the cold just made me feel like red wine and cheese. I didn't have any red wine, but last night at the Origin we had a little bit of a platter and there was a creamy blue with those crackers that have the fruit in them.
Yeah, I love them.
And random thing that I haven't had in ages, someone bought a bag of clouds.
They're my favorite, Lily.
So good.
So good.
So the clouds and the cheese.
Yeah.
Simple.
Clouds.
Not together.
Oh, right. I was like, did you eat them together? I'm all for a weird combo.
One of the girls that I know has crumpets with jam and cheese.
Yeah, I guess that would taste like for dinner, actually. I'm having bagels with vegan cream cheese and jam.
Yeah, right. Where's
That's
your
one
protein?
of my favourite combos. It's only because I'm sick, so I'm just going to give my stomach a bit of a
I'll
rest.
let you off the hook.
I have had a lot of protein this week. I've hit all my goals.
Good girl. Good girl. All right, ready to get into it?
I'm so ready.
You pumped?
I'm pumped.
You ready to get personally developed?
I am. Personally develop me.
So to start with, I wanted to ask you why you hate this term so much, because I know you hate it. I wanted to put it in our Instagram bio and you immediately was like, nah, it doesn't do it for me. You took it out.
Yeah.
So I want to know, so I just wanted to ask why you find the term so off-putting, because I'm sure that many listeners feel the same.
Yeah. So I think I associate it with people like Tony Robbins, and I know you love this person, but like Jay Shetty, and just like a few of the people that I find pretty problematic that position themselves as these like self-development gurus. And I kind of feel like it probably gets overused. And I think I probably associate it with these, you know, like the hustling white woman culture.
Yeah.
Which like I know, and having worked with you, I have realized that there's definitely a whole other side of it that I like much more.
Yeah.
That has happened to me without my knowledge.
It's just like slowly absorbing it by osmosis.
Soaking it in. But yeah, that would be why. And I feel like that's probably a lot of people's reasons.
Yeah. And this is something that I do say later on in this is like there'll be people in the personal development world that really feel aligned for you and people that don't. Like there's a few podcasters that are like top of the podcast charts for health and fitness and mental health and personal development. And I want to love them and they just don't align with me. Like I try and listen to their stuff and it just doesn't land. So I just wanted to start off by saying the definition of personal development. And I just got this straight from Wikipedia. So personal development or self-improvement consists of activities that develop a person's capabilities and potential, build human capital, facilitate employability, enhance quality of life, and facilitate the realization of dreams and aspirations. Personal development may take place over the course of an individual's entire lifespan and is not limited to one stage of a person's life. It can include official or informal actions for developing others in roles such as teacher, guide, counselor, manager, coach, or mentor, and is not restricted to self-help. So I think it does get this really woo-woo rap. Like, you know, you kind of think about, you know, you just have to think like this and all these magical things are going to happen to you. And, you know, you just need to manifest your dream life.
This is the stuff I don't like.
Yeah, which is fair enough. And this is the whole point of this whole episode. I wanted to give you guys a completely different angle. I like those things, but I like to understand this side of things as well. And it might change your opinion. What it's really about is actively bettering yourself to have a more enjoyable life by being a better version of you, meaning that you're happier, more fulfilled, you make more money, you're more present in your life, like whatever it is that you identify that you would like to improve in your life and actively working on that. And that could be like studying to get there is like a form of personal development, like going to university.
Yeah. When you explain it that way.
It's just like actively working on yourself to become better.
Yeah.
Not dreaming to become better. Like it's like the act of doing something about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, whatever it is that you want to work on to improve and actively working on it. Like some of the things are a little bit woo-woo, but what I've tried to do today is give you guys some science and some stats so that you can look at it from a more objective point of view.
I love this.
Keen?
Yes, I'm so keen. And I should say that the more I think about it, there probably are people in the more traditional self-help space that I do like Brené Brown. I love her. And like, I even feel like the Imperfects and all of that. That's a form of like.
Yeah, definitely. But and that's a really good point to bring up. And what I'm going to bring up with my first point is the Resilience Project is a great example because the key pillars behind it are mindset.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just where this driving force has to come from is you can change your mindset, and people that have a very fixed mindset of like, this is just my life, this is just how I am, they're not willing to do any work anyway. Like they're probably not someone that's going to go and study to get a better job. They're not someone that's going to go, they just kind of like accept their reality and do nothing about it. So my first point is like actively choosing you. Like that needs to be the first step. So often as busy people and especially as parents, we think that we're too busy to do the things that we want to do for us. And I think that that's really a narrative that everybody can relate to. But it's just a reminder that only have one life. And I remember like my mum being an example. She did, uni after she had us and got her career after she had us, and she didn't really start traveling until she was in her 40s. And she always said to me to do things the other way around.
Yeah.
And not to say that there is any wrong or right way, but it's still awesome that she went and did those things after she had children. But it's like if we keep putting things off until later in life, we might not get the opportunity anymore. Like we have this one life, and I always think back to people who are like, I'll just work really hard and then I'll relax in my retirement. Like what if you get to your retirement and you're unwell, or, there's all these things that you could only do that were time limited to your age and you've missed the opportunity.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to remember to choose you, and that you only have one life. So when you do choose to shop for you, like for an example of a parent or someone that is really busy, or they feel like they have a lot of people relying on them, you in turn show up better for everyone else that relies on you as well. So as a parent, it's a really easy example, like taking that time to work on you is going to make you a better mum.
Yeah.
It's going to make you a better partner. And while we say like it is selfish, it actually has like a compounding effect that it carries on to everyone else that relies on us. So when you're choosing you, you're actually choosing them as well.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before, but like no one is coming to change things for you. Like it's fully up to you. Nothing's going to magically happen to change your life. And if you don't like anything about your situation, it's up to you to make the change. Mm-hmm. So first step is actively choosing you. And when you start choosing you, all the things that you desire start choosing you too. And I know that that's gone a little bit woo-woo, but I'm going to explain myself. So positivity attracts more positivity and vice versa. The more spiritual people will call this law of attraction, which suggests that our thoughts and our emotions emit vibrations out into the universe, and they attract corresponding experiences and opportunities, basically meaning that you attract more of what you put out. So an example would be like when you're having a great day and everything goes right, you get every green light and you get a park as soon as you get to the shopping center. Or on the flip side of that, where you're having a really shit day, like you slept through your alarm, you get every red light, you kick your toe. So like we sort of get focused on these things and we attract more of it. Scientifically, to explain why and how this happens, we have what is called our reticular activating system, which is basically and I wish we had Emma here because she would be able to explain it. And Emma explained this to me the first time. For those that don't know, Emma is our resident psychologist who we'll be having on the podcast again shortly. I remember I was explaining this to my clients in my client group from more of like a sort of woo-woo law of attraction thing. And Emma was like, this is actually the science behind it. And I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you so much for sharing. So basically it's a network of neurons located in our brainstem that essentially help us to concentrate on our goals by acting as a filter for the information that aligns with our desires. So what that means is if we are clear on what we want and our goals, our brain will filter out the information that we're receiving. So we got things in and out all the time, and make us more likely to see opportunities that align with that goal.
Yeah.
Because the information is filtered based on our focus. And if you think about that, if someone says like yellow Honda,
Yeah.
all you see is yellow Hondas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there more yellow Hondas? No, but your brain is focused on that, so you're picking them up.
Yeah.
So if you think it's similar to that, like if you think like for yourself, you want to get podcast clients and work on podcasts, suddenly your world is just podcasts. Everyone's talking about podcasts.
Yes,
and this person wants to start a podcast and that. And these conversations could have still been happening. Like obviously people are more likely to talk to you about it because they know you're interested in it, but your brain is filtering the information and bringing more podcast stuff to your attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're focused. So that's kind of like the law of attraction from a scientific point of view, is that we have this thing in our brainstem that's filtering the information based on our desires.
Yeah, I love this, and it makes a lot of sense. And I guess an example that I kind of just sprung to mind, and something I was going to say to you the other day. So things work out time-wise so well for you and I've realized. So like I didn't realize, but it's Oscar's Sports Carnival next Thursday. And I was like, oh shit, I completely forgot. And then I check our calendar and it's fine because you're away.
Yeah.
So I was like, perfect. And then again, in a few weeks, someone said to me like, oh, we've got this event on this day. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have to reschedule the pod because it's really important. And then I had a look and you're away again. So I was like,
Nice.
This is perfect. And it's happened so many times since you and I started working together. It's kind of freaky. But I guess in looking at that, maybe that's just because I only see, because I love this and I love working with you, and I only see the positive sides of all of it. Like maybe there are times where it doesn't work out, but I just don't know. It's probably because I've just got this super positive filter on everything we do.
Well, it's kind of like, I always say to you that life works out for me because I believe that it does.
Yeah.
And it's because and there are times that things don't work for us, but we find a solution.
Yeah.
It's not like we're like, oh, that's so annoying. It's like, what about this time? Like, it's just like, but if you, and going back to that positivity and law of attraction of, the frequencies, you do attract different frequencies. Like if you decide that you are in a shit mood, you're just going to start picking up, all that energy and people. You'll attract, even when you change who you want to be and how you want to show up, you attract more people that align with that, and you push away the people that have the different energy.
Yeah.
But even going back to the reticular activating system, like imagine when you were trying to conceive with Magnolia, I'm sure that all you felt was around you was pregnancy and pregnant people and people talking about pregnancy. Like it's just all
babies
surrounding.
everywhere.
Yeah. Because I feel like at the moment, I was like, we say this all the time when we're going for a surf. We're like, wow, so many people surf now.
Yeah.
But it's like probably the same amount of people surf. It's just that I've never noticed them before because I wasn't as interested in it.
Yeah. So true.
So that's the whole like law of attraction, reticular activation system. Like obviously whatever you want to believe, it's like either the vibrations and the energy, which there's science behind that as well, or that our brain is filtering out the information to find things that align for us.
Yeah. And you can't argue with that.
You can't.
It's all very logical.
You can't. It's a real thing. All right. My next thing is gratitude. And I know you guys are probably a little bit sick of talking about this, but we touch on it. We're going to really get into it a little bit here. So what is gratitude? For this one, I've used the Oxford Dictionary.
Oh, look at me.
Look at me.
I love this.
I told you, I'm going legit. So it's
really winning me over.
Yeah. References. You know what Alex loves? References.
Love a reference.
As soon as you say, and this is from my brain goes, see ya. You're like, ooh.
I'm like, oh,
legit.
this is real.
Is there a bibliography? It's Wikipedia. And no.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Oh God. I didn't keep, do you know that when I was at uni doing my, was it called a bibliography or was it called something else?
Like
just
a
reference list.
Yeah.
That was the bane of my existence.
Really? That was my favorite part.
Oh, you are such a nerd. I had to I know some people do it as they go.
Yeah.
I mean, some people just bullshit their way through. I don't know if I would have passed uni if I was in uni in this day and age with all the AI stuff.
Yeah.
Because I would be like, this vaguely, and keeping in mind that I did a social science degree as well. So it's not like, it's your interpretation of the information. I'd be like, oh, this article vaguely relates to what I'm trying to say.
I'm going to pop it in there.
In you go.
Oh, no, I had a full system. Like I had a separate Word document, and every time I referenced something, I would automatically do the citation and then the reference, and then I would highlight it in a certain color so that every time I put it in the thing, it was in a certain color. And then I had a graph made up of the, like, say it was the APA reference. And so then I would just copy the formatting.
APA, I forgot that existed. Yeah. I think I would actually go about it very differently now. I was not an organized queen when I was at uni.
Yeah.
I was like up at midnight doing things at the last minute.
Yeah. I feel like this is one of the benefits of like being a mature age student.
Yeah. Like when I did my nutrition course, I was so different about studying. I'm like, I will study every week at this time for this time. And I remember in my final exam, like when I was at uni, I actually did quite well. Again, I did a social science degree and like you pick up a few key concepts, you apply them to everything, you're going to get good marks. And, but I wasn't trying to be a high achiever versus when I did my nutrition quals, and like when you want to study something to be amazing at it versus just getting through. You had to do for the final exam, you had to do 100 questions in 60 minutes.
That's wild.
And I got 97 out of 100. And the guy was like, this is the best result we've ever had. And I'm like, I can't believe I got 3 questions wrong. What were they? I was like annoyed.
Let me go again.
So different, such a different approach.
So good.
Anyway, back to gratitude. Oxford Dictionary says it's the quality of being thankful, readiness to show appreciation for, and to return kindness. So how gratitude works on a scientific level.
Yes.
When we express and receive gratitude, our brain releases dopamine and serotonin, which are the neurotransmitters responsible responsible for our emotions, making us feel really good. So we are, when we are expressing or receiving gratitude from someone else, it's actually spiking those feel-good responses. They immediately enhance our mood and make us feel happy from the inside. So in my opinion, like, what an amazing way to start or end your day, on that sort of vibe of feeling happy from the inside.
So nice.
So how it works on an energetic level. So all of our emotions exist on an energetic level, with gratitude and appreciation being the two most powerful and higher frequency emotions. And I have read somewhere, and I don't know if this is true, but you can't feel shame and anger at the same time as feeling gratitude.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah. So gratitude is happiness, and it doesn't mean that you don't want more in life. It just means that you're able to fully appreciate what you do have. And then through that appreciation, you can attract more of what you want. So it's like that same frequency. So going back to what I was saying about shame and anger, like being really low vibrations energetically, like, and using gratitude to change that. So gratitude can unshackle us from toxic emotions. So that's kind of what we were just saying, and shift our energy and state. And there's actually a few studies to show that it's having long-lasting positive impacts on the brain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I just wanted to talk about when gratitude really started making sense for me, because I felt like I was trying to do gratitude. And, you know, going back to that really basic definition is to, you know, feel, what did it say? To feel thankful, or to be ready to show appreciation for and kindness. And I remember trying to sit down and do gratitudes and being like, I'm grateful that I have a home to live in.
Yeah.
Like, I'm grateful that I can go to the beach. Like, I'm grateful that I can have a dog. And you can say those things, but for most of us, luckily, they are such a solid, dependable part of our lives that we don't feel true gratitude for them. Like, we can't anchor in the emotion of having a home.
Yeah.
Because maybe someone who hasn't had a home could, but for most of us, very, very luckily, that's all we've ever known.
Yeah.
So I was kind of trying to do it, and I didn't really get it. Like, it didn't click for me. Like, I was like, yep, these things are great.
Yeah, you're like calling it in.
Yeah, yeah. I heard all this stuff about how good it is, but it didn't click for me. And then there was, you know, two things that I listened to that really made it fall into place along with daily practice. The first one was a podcast, and I don't even know the podcast or who the person was on the podcast.
Yeah.
But I remember them saying gratitude should be specific to you.
Yeah.
So no one else should be able to say the things that you're grateful for. And true gratitude should almost move you to tears.
Yeah.
And I thought, I've never felt that doing my gratitude practice.
Yeah.
I've never felt like that. And then I remember the lady saying, like, it needs to be specific to you, and like, you need to be really specific. And that's when it started to fall into place for me. Then I had kind of got a pretty good handle on it. But what really cemented it for me was when I listened to the Resilience Project, and the way that Hugh describes it is just like so simple. It's like 3 things that went well for you in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
And when I combined those 2 things, thinking about something that only I could say and what went well for me in the last 24 hours, I realized that it's like the small, specific things, and then to anchor into like it moving you, not necessarily to the point of tears every time, but when I think back to like my gratitudes that I do every morning with the girls, like for example, in the last 24 hours or even today, I could say like on the drive here, I had a really impactful call with one of my clients about their mindset around their nutrition that I know is going to really help them move forward.
Yeah.
And the feeling that I get from that is like, I'm really thankful for the experience to be able to do that and to help somebody else.
Yeah.
And now like when I do my gratitudes every morning, like I go back and think like what happened in the last day that went well for me. And usually I can come up with 8 to 10 things.
Yeah.
Like little tiny things. It might be like I had a really amazing acai bowl that had Nutella on it.
Yeah.
And that was so incredibly delicious. But the act of then thinking about that gets me to reflect on the last 24 hours and pull out all those little moments of joy
Yeah.
from the day before And then that sets the tone for my new day.
Yeah.
And like, you're like writing them out with a huge smile on your face because you're like, fuck, how amazing is my life?
Yeah, that's so nice.
And then other days you'll be like, you know, some days we just wake up with the shits. Like we haven't slept well.
Yeah.
Something's happened. The kids have been up a million times. Obviously not my kids.
Kenny.
But then, Kenny, who doesn't do anything or say anything in the middle of the night. Like maybe I might hear him like tick over to his water bowl and that's the most of it.
Yeah.
But then to have to really try hard and maybe only be able to pull out 3 things from the day before, but it's shifting that energy and that state.
Yeah.
The last point to when gratitude really became life-changing for me is to make it a daily practice, to not actually just do it once a week when you remember to sit down with your diary. And again, it's about finding a system that works for you. Like I've mentioned before, like I do it with my girlfriends. Occasionally when my clients really need to shift their state, I'll set them a task to do it. So I'll like auto message it so that it comes to them. I do my journaling on my computer. Yeah. And I do like money gratitudes on my computer. And I know people say like pen to paper is best, but if you're never going to do it on pen to paper and you're going to do it on your phone, do what works for you. Like set an alarm, find a way, but make it a daily practice. And you should do this. Everybody should do this with their kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think it's the best thing in the world, and to explain it to their kids like this in this specific way, because kids aren't going to feel gratitude for the fact that they have a house. Because again, they don't know the difference. But if it could be like, you know, I had a really good play with my brother today, or I really liked when you put this in my lunchbox.
Yeah.
Like, and to get them from a young age pulling the little bits of joy out of every day, because I think, like I said before, like gratitude is happiness, and it's not about not having bigger dreams and aspirations, but it's like being able to look at your life and picking out all the little moments of joy in your life. And that's like true happiness. Like it's not when we get the thing, it's not when we get the next job or the partner or the house. It's like being able to appreciate sitting down with a friend and having a conversation and a beautiful coffee.
Yeah. I feel like doing that as well also helps you identify what makes you happy and why it makes you happy. And then that will help you figure out so many other things in life.
And like another thing on it is like when you're focusing on these things and finding all these little things that bring you joy in every day, you're trying to replicate that on the next day.
Yeah.
And like how amazing is that? Like going back to we only have this one life, and you think a lot of us spend 40 years working 9 hours a day in a job that we hate, and it's like get up, go to gym, get the kids ready, go to work, pick up the kids, eat dinner, repeat. Like if you haven't taken time in that day to do things that bring you pure joy.
Yeah. Even if it's like eating lunch that you really love, or calling
like
your best
sitting
friend
in the
on the way to
sun
work.
when you eat lunch, like a phone call on the way to work, or like getting your feet in the sand in the morning. Like if you don't find time to put true joy in your day, like little moments, you're going to get to the time you retire and be like, fuck, that was my life. And it's not about like being self-employed and creating all this freedom in your schedule.
No.
It's like whatever works for you, creating a life that you love.
I feel like putting it like the way you put it is it could just have so many other benefits, and like creating more self-awareness obviously is one of the biggest ones. If you are miserable and you're sad and you don't feel like you've got much going on that'll make you happy, it might force you to find more things to make you happy is what you're saying. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
You might be like, yesterday I didn't experience any joy. So like, how am I going to change that today?
Yeah, definitely.
I love that. I'm like, the whole time you're talking, I'm like thinking of things that in the last 24 hours that made me happy. It's nice.
What do you got?
Okay. One, this started off bad, but like seeing the good in it. Magnolia's been relentlessly bullied by this little boy for about a year. And yesterday she finally like broke down and she was very upset. But I said to her, like, what do you want to do to make you feel better? Like, what can we do like right now? Because she was bawling. And she goes, I want to call Poppy. And I was like, okay. And I was like, why do you want to call Poppy? And he's like, he can fix it. And I was like, okay. So she called my dad, and my dad was like, in a very like my dad way, was like, you tell him if he upsets you again, I'm going to come to that school. And she just had the biggest smile on her face. So that was really nice. So there's that. And then I felt grateful, I guess around that whole moment, like the way Oscar responded was really nice. Like he was trying to make her laugh and make her feel better. So then that made me grateful that I've like raised this nice little human.
And
even though they fight, but
yeah, and even just like slowing down to notice all these things happening. Like you could not being focused on that, you could just be like, yeah, here, cool pop.
Yeah.
And you know what? Go into the kitchen and not hear how Oscar had responded. And you know what I mean? It's just like slowing down and noticing all these little moments.
And this was all in the car, which I think is, as a parent, I think that there's a lot of like value in being in the car with your kids. Like I think that's the time where you are really forced to listen to conversations and like focus. And it's a time where they really open up a lot more as well.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that's good. I have a lot of like moments of gratitude in the car, actually.
What's your happy spot with the kids?
I just think of like a lot of things when I'm driving. Like when we were driving to the Green Heart Fair, I was like, oh my God, I have 3 kids and like a husband. I have this little family and we just go places.
I always say, I always have this like overwhelming sense of gratitude that Kenny's like a little animal and he like lives in my house.
He lives in your house?
He lives in my house with me and he does life with me. Like how amazing is that?
Isn't it so funny? Sometimes I look at Bill and Elle and I'm like, it's so weird that we just like, we've taken these animals.
And they just do life with us.
Live with us.
It's like, the best.
Come on, little animal.
Yeah.
They're like the birds in Snow White.
It's bizarre, but
so
it's like
funny.
Amazing.
Yeah, love that.
And he's been so affectionate lately. Like,
can we please post the modelling photos of Kenny?
Yeah.
They kill me.
It's so cute. Kenny,
so cute.
Kenny was a model.
Bashful Kenny.
Yeah, it's his birthday next week and I was actually going to post one of the modelling shots for it'd probably be out by the time this episode's out. You can check my Instagram to see Kenny modelling. So that's gratitude. And like this is absolutely where I would start. Like if you want to improve your life, I would not start by looking at what's missing. Yeah. I would start by looking at what you have. And that's what gratitude is. The next point that I have is goal setting and vision boards. And we have a whole episode on this and I would definitely go back and refer to it for all of our tips on how you should set goals and how you should create a vision board. Why should we set goals? So it helps you determine what you want to achieve in life. It keeps you focused. It increases motivation and productivity and it helps you to dream big. So if you do some research on why it's important to set goals, I remember hearing this ages ago and it was only when I was researching this app again that I found it again. And the first thing that comes up is this Harvard study. Yes. And it's like, it's fake.
Oh.
So it's like this fake thing that they sent out that said something like it was like a class and they asked them who had written down goals and they said like the 3% that had written down their goals exceeded the other 97% by 10 times their salary. And then the whole study is a fake.
Ah.
So if you read that one, read a little bit further because that'll be the first thing that comes up. But there is a lot of studies to say that people who do set goals are more successful. I wouldn't say that they're 10 times more like that thing So a study by the Dominican University, a real one, found people who set goals are 43% more likely to achieve them and that people who set specific and challenging goals are more likely to achieve them than people who set easy and broad goals. And I would say I see that all the time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, all the time in my work. People that say, I want to lose weight.
Yeah.
Versus someone that says, I want to lose 5 kilos by the end of the year for this reason.
Yeah.
So there's a few surprising stats in regards to goal setting that I'm going to share. So visualizing and imagining your goals can make you twice as confident in achieving them. And that makes sense, right? Like if you can visualize yourself already having achieved them, then you're more confident that you're able to do it. And there's heaps of good research around visualization. I will admit that it's something that I'm not very good at.
Yeah.
You know how they talk about there's people with different brains and some brains that say like, visualize this in your mind. I feel
like you're like Kev in this. Like you both like kind of go a bit blank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't get a clear picture. You know how some people can imagine like a movie in their mind?
That's how my brain works.
Absolutely not at all.
That's exactly how I can play out complete scenarios and like plan a whole film in my head, play by play to like the interior design of their house.
Nah, could not do it.
Yeah.
We need to do more research into this with
why our brains
different
work.
brains.
Yeah,
we should. How different brains work as well, which is coming into play in our next episode as well with my memory versus yours. It's like a details thing.
Yeah.
So a study in Forbes found that people this is the real stat, 14% of people with goals are 10 times more successful than those without goals. You have a 65% chance of achieving a goal if you have an accountability partner.
Yes.
So like if you're sharing your goal with somebody else and having someone accountable to show like help you show up, which makes so much sense, right?
So much sense. They're driving you along.
Yeah, definitely. Like even like a gym buddy or a coach or just having someone to talk to about your goal and to keep you on track and keep you accountable.
Yeah.
In 90% of studies, challenging and specific goals resulted in better performance than easy goals, no goals, or those do your best goals.
Yeah.
And I reckon that those are the worst ones.
I agree, because you're kind of letting yourself off the hook.
Yeah, 100%.
It's
like self-sabotage.
You're giving yourself like permission to like, if you don't really achieve it, that's okay, because you did your best.
I'm going to try.
But I'm not going to try that hard.
If you're going to, if you go, I'll try.
Yeah.
You're not committed to doing it.
Yeah. Kev and I actually went out and we're going to do a 10K. And at the beginning of the 10K, we go, let's go to 5 and see how we feel. We only went to 5. And then when we were driving home, he was like, we should have just said, let's go for 10, because we gave ourselves permission to quit at 5. And I was like, oh my God, by 2.5Ks, I was visualizing the Starbucks I was going to have as soon as I finished at 5.
So it's like that old saying, like whether you say you can or you can't, you're going to be right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right.
It's so true. And 35% of people fail their New Year's resolution because they're unrealistic.
Ah.
Yeah. So tips for goal setting. Write them down or create a vision board.
Yeah.
Step 1, go and listen to our other episode about vision boards.
Good job.
Create SMART goals. And we've all heard about SMART goals before, but there's actually like some really good stuff in there, so that they need to be specific. So like we were saying before, it's not like lose weight or get clients. It's like lose 5 kilos or get 4 clients. It needs to be measurable. And that's like, well, that's probably more what it is. Measurable, specific needs maybe what type of clients or how you're going to lose the weight. Attainable, so it needs to be realistic for you. Like someone comes to me and says, I want to lose 15 kilos in the next month. It's not attainable.
Yeah.
Relevant. So again, it needs to be relevant to you. And that's another thing with self-sabotage as well. We were talking about the car before. If you don't really want the car for reasons that are relevant to you, you're probably not as motivated to work towards it.
Yeah.
And timely. So it's a good idea to put a time frame on our goals so that we do have a time frame that we're working towards.
Yeah.
The next thing you would do would to be break down the steps and then reverse engineer it into smaller bite-sized pieces.
This is one of my favorite things that you talk about.
Yeah. So it's like, again, and I'm just using weight loss because it's such an easy, tangible thing for people to envision. Like, so if you say, I want to lose 10 kilos this year, if we reverse engineer that back to say, okay, well, that's a kilo a month with a bit of a buffer, then I only need to lose 250 grams per week.
Yeah.
Sounds super achievable than the goal of I need to lose 10 kilos.
Yeah.
So reverse engineer it down into small chunks. Find someone to be your accountability buddy. That could be someone with a similar goal, someone that's in your life that's going to be supportive. Could be a coach, teacher, mentor, and then visualize yourself achieving your goal.
Yeah.
So that's, that's something that I find really hard. Like I try and lay in bed at night. I'm kind of good at like remembering recent things, and I'll try to visualize, and then I'll like fall into like a memory. Like I really struggle. I think we've spoken about it before. I don't know if it was on the podcast or just you and I speaking off air about like how visualizing something right before you go to sleep can be really beneficial to working towards it, because it's like the last thing that you think of. And there was science on the podcast that I was listening to with that, and I really try so hard to do it, and I suck.
That's so funny. Yeah. I wonder what it is. But it is very interesting.
How different
our brains work.
Yeah.
Because that's what I think, I don't know if we spoke about this on here, but I remember talking about how when I can't sleep, I'll lay there and like visualize my dream house and what it's like when I walk through the door, what I can see. And then that leads to like.
I can hardly visualize the house that I live in now.
Really? That's so funny.
But also going back on that, like just because I suck at this doesn't mean I'm not going to try and do it.
Yeah.
And we're talking about on the episode with Alexis, like just because you suck at meditation doesn't mean you shouldn't do meditation. Like with all this self-development stuff, you should probably push harder on the things that you suck at.
Oh, so true. Do you know how good my visualization is? This is a good example. So I'm working on this story, finally getting back into my writing, and I'm using the tips Alexis gave me on that episode. But I have been working on the first, like the opening to my story. And when I picture it in my head, it's so sad. I made myself cry. And then I'm like, I don't think I can write this. And I see it so vividly. It makes me feel a bit sick.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's probably a sign I should keep going.
Even when I read books, I don't have a picture in my mind.
Really?
Like, obviously I do because I can, like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's not like a movie.
That's so funny.
Like, you know, when people say, oh, how does a character look in your head versus how they look when they show up in a movie? I don't know that they look like, I read the descriptive words, but I don't know that I have a picture of them in my head.
Oh, I'm completely the opposite. And I really struggle to read a book and then watch the movie because they're just not the person I created.
So based on the goals that you've set, you can then see, like, personal development wise what you want to work on, and then you can find resources to learn. So there's so much free content out there at the moment.
Yeah.
Podcasts and the internet are a great place to start. So, like, if you decide that you want to make more money, you want to get into investing, so you need to go and learn about investing, that would be a form of personal development.
Yeah.
You could start with podcasts.
Yeah.
And
Instagram.
The internet, Instagram. Audiobooks are fantastic and I think pretty accessible. I feel like a lot of what I've done, I've learned through audiobooks. And just like they're a little bit more specific and fleshed out than podcasts.
Yeah.
Find out what and who feels aligned to you. And that's what I was saying before. Like, some people will appeal to you and some people won't, and that's totally okay. And that will influence how things sink in. And even if you hear the same thing, like someone, and I think it's like common when your partner tells you something and then someone else tells you something and you're like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Not like, how do you know? What would you know?
Yeah. So like you might hear the same piece of information from 3 different people, but the third person might be really aligned to you. And that might be when it clicks into place for you. So have a look around and find who feels aligned for you. And just because your friend has learned so much off this one person and feels really aligned with this one person, that doesn't mean that you will.
Yeah.
And like, I'm thinking of this podcast and like, I want to love it.
Yeah.
But I just can't get into it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the same. I've had people that have recommended things and they love it so much it's changed their lives. And I listen and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to be like the information's got to be a way that appeals to you.
Yeah. And I think maybe finding someone who, well, I guess likes the same things as you and whose brain works a bit similar, like Fraz. She recommended that Kate Reid podcast, and that was the first time I ever listened to The Imperfects, and that just changed so many things for me.
Yeah.
So.
And like, having said that, I love like crime stuff, and I remember Fraz and Ash recommended this podcast to me, and I listened to one episode and I was like, I can never listen to this. That was terrible.
Yeah.
Like, it just depends on what works for you and how you like to like hear and receive, and it's got like to do with people's personality and their tone and how they deliver information. So like, if you think, oh, I want to work on X, and then, you know, you listen to one thing and that person doesn't align with you, just try again with somebody else.
That makes so much sense. I'm like, I don't watch one horror movie and go, oh, I hate that horror movie, and so then I write off the whole genre.
Yeah.
Which I have done with this.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's so true. Like, even if you think like someone that's, you know, really big in the mindset space is like David Goggins.
Yeah.
And I just cannot.
I don't know who he is.
He's like the guy that's like, stay hard, and he's like hardcore. And I'm like, too much for me.
Slow down.
Put it back in the box.
Yeah.
Whereas like to compare someone similar, like Ned Brockman, I'm like all about him.
He's
think
so
he's
your
a fucking
vibe.
legend. But like more realistic, more relaxed, like similar sort of thing, but one person like completely repulses me and the other person I'm like, yeah, I find you so inspiring.
Yeah.
No offense to people like David Goggins is like huge, like, and he's doing great work. Like,
yeah.
The other thing I would say is, again, and this kind of leads on, like, keep an open mind, like go into things and let things play a little bit longer, even if you don't agree, because they might bring them around. And forever be the student. Like what I was saying before, even if you think you know something, go into every new experience thinking that you're going to learn something, because you might pick up something new. Or even if you listen to say you listen to the same audiobook 5 years ago and it changed your life, if you listen to it now at a different place in your life, you might pick up all these different things that you didn't pick up there because you weren't ready to receive it, or your reticular activation system wasn't dialed in on those things. And now, but might be really beneficial to you. So go into every experience, like being the student and expecting to learn. Even if you think the person that you're learning from is a level below you never know what perspective that they have that might be really beneficial to you. And my last point, and this is an area where so many people fail in their self-development, and this is embodiment. So they learn something and they learn about it, but they don't do the work to make it part of their everyday lives. And like thinking back to gratitude, it's such an easy one.
Yeah.
Like people say, oh, like I know what gratitude is. I'm grateful. But are you doing a daily gratitude practice to really feel the benefits of gratitude in your everyday life? Like, are you embodying it? Like same with money mindset. And this is the one that I am always working on. And when I'm like embodying it, it's good.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I like let it slip, I get so frustrated at myself. And with this and with everything, like you're going to always have times you go backwards. I get so frustrated with myself. Like, why am I still feeling frustrated about the same things that I was feeling frustrated about a year ago?
Yeah.
And then I go, well, look, I'm not really embodied in making sure that I make that change. And then when I start to anchor into doing the daily work on that, and like for me, that looks like looking at my money and looking at my bank account every day and looking where things are going in and out and feeling gratitude for the money that I have. Like I go on a holiday and I get really loose with my money and then I come back and I start freaking out about everything.
Yeah.
Catching and changing negative thought patterns, which we talk about all the time. But, you know, if you're really focused on it, you might be in a really good place with your mindset and then you think, oh, I've done this, so I don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Or I will talk to clients about it and they'll say, yep, I know that. Yep. I'm going to catch and change. And then they'll get on the next call and they'll be like, oh, it was just this happened. And you can hear them talking to themselves in this negative way. And you're like, well, you're not actually catching and changing because you've let this thought ruminate for a whole week.
Yeah.
Versus being committed. And, you know, we have 30 years for most of us, if you're the target demographic of this podcast, like 30 years of thought patterns and behaviors and stuff that we need to change. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
And it's this daily embodiment that's going to make a big difference. There's a very big difference between knowing a thing and doing a thing.
So true.
And I think that that's like you're likely to need to get uncomfortable and feel some resistance towards it at first. And it's like there's all different phases of like being consciously aware and then you're consciously unaware and then you're aware of it, but it's not conscious. Like you've got to move through the phases, but you've got to do the work. So it's like you can show up and you can listen to this podcast and you can decide, yep, I want to be grateful. But unless you're going to go and start a gratitude practice, it doesn't need to be every day. Like you're not going to feel the true benefits of doing that.
Yeah.
So just my last point before we round out the episode is I just want you to remember this. Your thoughts, your beliefs, and your feelings make up your current reality. So like whether we're looking at the science or the woo-woo with it or not, like what we think, what we believe, and how we feel makes up our life.
Yeah.
If that reality isn't something that we're happy with in any area, that's where we need to start to make change. So starting with your thoughts, your beliefs, your feelings, like before you go and sign up to that uni course to change your career, you know, you need to start thinking differently and believing you deserve better and, you know, feeling grateful towards the life that you have and have the opportunity to make change. It all starts with making just like one small little change to break the cycle. So you need to start being the person that you want to be before you become them. So if you're thinking about this developed version of you, think if I was that person already, how would I act?
Yeah.
And start acting that way.
That's such good advice. Very attainable. Can I tell you something?
Go on.
I've loved this. This has been fantastic. And you've definitely been winning me over. Obviously, I think people can tell by the things that I've implemented in my life in the time that you and I have been working together. But last night I moved us out of personal journals and into self-development.
Oh, did you? Yay. I think so like what we do on this podcast and what I do in my career is like it's personal development.
Literally it is.
Even when I think about my job as a coach, like I am a PT and I'm a sports nutritionist, but what I'm working with all of my clients on is personal development, like positively changing their lives.
Yeah. And I guess everything I do with feminism and stuff is wanting people to be more aware of feminism and be better in that way. So,
but it is like also having an open mind about the terms and not falling into like the stigma or letting people that don't align with you dictate the whole thing. And like you said about the horror movie thing, it's like watching one shit horror movie and then deciding that you don't like horror movies anymore.
Yeah.
Which we're all guilty of.
Yeah.
We're all really guilty of like just like it's like the whole judge a book by its cover thing.
Yeah.
Or having like one bad experience. And I mean, I would say like if I have a bad meal at a restaurant, I will never go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also I'm like, why would I give them a second chance? I might have 2 bad meals.
You might get gluten 3 times.
Maybe. Yeah. So I was going to do a surprise segment today, but we kind of already touched on it. I was going to make you do a gratitude practice and say 3 things that went well for you in the last 24 hours.
Okay. Do you want me to? I can think of one more because I only thought of 2 before.
Okay.
Would you go first?
Okay, I'll go first. I'm just going to look at the ones that I sent this morning just because my brain is a little bit mushy today. I'll read my list that I sent to the girls this morning. Grateful for my client check-ins going well yesterday despite my random anxiety in the night.
Yeah.
So I'm like a couple of days out from my period and I just get random anxiety. So I woke up at 2 a.m. thinking about my clients and thinking about one particular client who works really hard and her progress is really slow and being really frustrated for her.
Oh.
And she was my first call of the day and it was fine.
Yeah.
The next thing was me reviewing my pricing and getting ready to do my end of financial year price increase and reflecting on how I don't feel anxious about that anymore like I used to in the past. A great night for the NRL. Having a sleep in after a late night and having the flexibility to do that, selling a one-off macro plan, and then I always have something about money in there every single day as well. So that might be like the other day, it was like being able to work from a cafe and having a nice breakfast while I'm there.
Nice.
As like my rent.
All right. I'm going to think of, I can think of a few more now. So I was definitely felt very grateful yesterday for my friendships. I had a really nice day at my friend Alyssa's house with our boys and I always leave her feeling like so lucky to have found someone that I just have so much in common with.
Yep.
And just feel very like, you know, when you have a friend that just makes you feel really loved?
Yeah.
Just like that. And then I feel grateful now because I was having a pretty shitty day and I knew as soon as I saw you, I would feel better.
Yeah.
And so now I feel better.
I feel healthier despite the fact that I can't breathe.
Healthier in my presence.
But like when you think about energy states as well, like you're saying that, like knowing you're feeling a bit flat and then the energy changes, or like, you know, when you are like thinking back to friendships that you have and like, you know how like, you know, seeing a certain person and their energy is going to shift your mood.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to the energetics side
Love
of things, but like we won't, we're staying away from
the woo-woo
today. So thank you so much for tuning into the episode. I hope that you got a bit of a different perspective. And if you don't like the term personal development before, I hope that I've changed your mind like I've changed Alex's and we get to go in the self-development category. That makes me really happy. This is a large chunk of what I do with my clients. Although they are often working on body composition and health-related goals with me, mindset is such a huge part as well. You can find me on Instagram at fitty_Teagues for coaching.
Thank you, Tegan. I've just loved this whole episode and I can't wait for everyone to hear it. I got so much from all of that and I feel like you just put it in the most logical way, which is, you know, how my brain works and like how Kev's brain works. And I feel like this is even going to win him over. So
if Kev starts texting me his daily gratitudes, I would die of happiness. Just one day, Kev. Just one day.
Do it. So if you have a great idea for a podcast and are in the market for a producer, please reach out to me on Hey Al Productions.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.